Hi, I'm attorney Renee Osipov, and we assist veterinarians with employment contract issues. Today, I'm discussing what business expenses should be covered in a veterinary employment contract. So there is many things that could be covered, but I'm going to go over the basics and the most common ones we see. So the most common one normally is continuing education. Normally there is an allowance, so a max amount that you can get reimbursed for, and it's anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000, depending on how specialized you are and where you are in the country, how much your practice would pay out for that. So continuing education expenses could include books, conferences, travel expenses to conferences. The list kind of goes on from there, but you are normally given some type of continuing education or a CE or CME allowance annually because you have to keep up with those in order to keep your license. So continuing education is the first one. The second most common likely is your licensing and dues and any type of professional membership. So, AVMA membership, there's lots of local memberships that you could join. And sometimes they're actually spelled out exactly which memberships your veterinary clinic or practice will pay for. And sometimes they leave that discretion to you. So it's very important that you read your agreement so that you know what sort of business expenses, exactly what is going to be reimbursed. So membership, absolutely, that should be included. Dues and licensing fees. So your state veterinary license and your renewals. That's important. If you're licensed in more than one state, occasionally both of those would be covered. You may need a DEA license, and those can get pretty expensive. If you do, then that would be covered as well under your reimbursement. Now, sometimes these are capped at a certain amount. Sometimes they're grouped in with your CE allowance. They'll just say like $4,000 for all of those sort of like ancillary or, like business expenses. So it really just depends on your agreement, but they should be listed in there. And it depends on how they're paid out, but they should be reimbursed some way, because you're not getting any sort of tax incentives if you are paying those out. And they do add up, and they're annual fees. So over a period of time, that's a lot of money coming out of your pocket. Another thing that's pretty common would be, or business expense would be relocation expenses. So if you're moving to a clinic or a practice from out of state or cross country, typically you will be granted some type of relocation allowance or reimbursement. And that's anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. Again, it's structured differently depending on, if you're joining more of like a corporate practice or a private. Sometimes they have to reimburse the companies directly for your moving expenses. Other times they'll just give it to you in a large amount and just, expect that it goes towards relocation expenses. If they structure it more like a bonus, it is taxed as income. So just be aware of that. So if it says $10,000 for relocation expenses paid out in one lump sum, you won't actually be getting that full $10,000 because taxes will come off the top before you receive that. So that's just something you need to keep in mind. And then I would say almost always malpractice insurance is covered. And as you know, it's normally through the AVMA. And that's also either reimbursed or they will go ahead and take out the policy in your name. So that's just kind of a rundown of the typical business expenses. Now, some veterinarians do travel a lot, so travel expenses are typically covered if you're mobile. And this can even mean providing you with a vehicle or, giving you some type of maintenance, fees, reimbursements, gas, something like that. And then also, I guess if you're mobile as well, you're typically granted some type of cell phone reimbursement because that's going to be important. You're going to need that in order to provide those services. So that's just kind of a rundown of the typical business expenses that are included in a veterinary contract for employment. If you have any additional questions or you'd like more information, we also have more videos. You can check out our website, Chelle Law, CHELLE law.com. And you can also set up a consultation with us, and we're happy to look at your contract, and we'll make sure that you are getting those business expenses that you should be getting.